Tonight on Free Minds TV, we'll be discussing a 78-year-old man who's accused of providing an illegal taxi service, as well as fuel pumps that literally can't keep up with the high price of gasoline, and we'll be addressing some of the rumors that might be floating around about Free Minds TV and what the future holds. All this and more coming up.
And welcome to Free Minds TV, where we challenge you, the viewer, to think outside the box. With you today is Toby.
And Nick.
All right, we've got a lot going on today. We're going to be talking about, as you said there, we're going to be talking about a poor old man who was caught in some kind of a sting operation for illegal taxi service. I don't know when we get into the details about this. It's pretty sad and very pointless. We're also going to be getting into some of the prices of energy costs, and then later in the show, if we have time for it, we're going to be talking about no-knock warrants as well as the future of Free Minds TV. But let's start off, Nick, with tell me a little bit about this taxi service, because everybody knows, I think we've talked about taxis before and how there's quite the racket around. It costs a ton of money to get a license to have a taxi in places like New York City. I don't think you can even just go get one. You have to pay thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for a license to drive a taxi. So this is really quite the racket that the government's got going. But what happened to this poor old man?
Well, this is out of Miami Gardens, Florida. This older gentleman he's 78 years old, and he was on his way to the grocery store. And he walked in, he was just doing some shopping, and there was a woman there who happened to, he didn't know it at the time, but she worked for something called the Bureau of Consumer Services. So supposedly
she's providing a service.
Right, supposedly it's a government agency that supposedly protects consumers with things that the city regulates. And she was undercover, so he didn't know it at the time. She said she needed a ride home. And this old man, his name is O'Neill, last name, said that when he was done, if she was still there and needed a ride, he could give her a ride home. She asked if he was providing a taxi service. He said no.
He sounds like a good Samaritan to me.
Right, he's just an older guy who wants to help out a woman who says she needs a ride home from the grocery store. So when he got done with his shopping, she still needed a ride, was still there. She got in, he took her home. And she asked what she should pay him, and he said, whatever you give me is fine. And she said, no, I need a price, because he kind of needed to name a price for them to do a sting operation. So apparently he names some amount of money that he thought he should give her after she asked. And he's been fined for this. He's been cited, and his vehicle's been impounded, and it's going to cost hundreds of dollars to get it out of the impound lot. So just because he gave someone home, and they insisted that he ask them for money. Now he's facing heavy fines and cars impounded.
I think these sting operations are disgusting in general. There's absolutely no reason for them at all. We're just going out there looking to create criminals when we've said many times on this show we already have more prisoners behind bar than any other country in the world. That's not per capita, that's any other country. The United States, with a population of about 300 million people, has more people behind bars than, say, China. They're supposedly very ruthless people. We think of them as poor human rights, but they only have 1.5 million people. We have 2.2.
1.5 billion. So they have
no, but in prison they have 1.5 million people behind bars. We have 2.2 million people behind bars. We have 300,000 people. 300 million people in the U.S. They have
I think they're going on 1.5 billion, so about 5 times the population, 4 or 5 times the population, and they still have like half the prisoners that we do.
And we are going out there looking to find some more criminals to put behind bars or fine or impound their cars for. And why? What did this guy do to deserve this? And how much tax dollar money was spent on this sting operation? I know that when I paid my taxes, begrudgingly, some of the time, I don't want my money going towards this. I don't care if an old man runs a taxi service, but this man probably wasn't even running a taxi service. I don't know. I wasn't there. Maybe he was. From the story, it sounds like he wasn't. She was the one insisting on giving him money. What's the point?
And you even have to question, even if he was running a taxi service, why do we need the city to be licensing taxis? I mean,
the more the merrier, right?
Well, for the consumer, generally speaking, yeah. And some people make the argument, well, you don't know if people are trustworthy if they're running an actual reputable service. But generally speaking, when you have more companies out there to choose from, more cabbies, you're going to have lower prices because there's more competition. And what the licensing serves to do is it keeps out little guys who want to run with their own personal vehicle, want to run a taxi service. It keeps them out because in some cases it is thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars to even get a permit to do it.
If you can even get one. A lot of the time they're not available. They're used as, I've heard stories about in New York City about how they're used as really a revenue booster. When they need to make some money, they're falling short, release a few more licenses, and they go to the highest bidder some of the time. So
right.
It's really quite the racket that people have going here. It sounds like protectionism for the people who do have the licenses to run a taxi service. Protectionism, shutting everybody else out. Is this what we need a government for?
No, it's not. It doesn't really do the consumers a service at all. And it also, the only reason the city has an incentive to do it is because it allows them to charge high fees to get these licenses. And the cab companies that are paying them generally don't mind because the amount of profit they make in that restricted market balances out. So the city wins, and as far as the city government wins, and the big cab companies win, but people who want to run small-time companies, small businesses, and the consumer are who gets hurt.
Yeah,
and actually,
everyone who the government is supposedly there to help is not helped by it. Everyone who the government is there to be protected against, supposedly, is hurt by it. Or it just doesn't make sense.
No, and this is pretty typical of what happens when
on this. I mean,
that's pretty typical of what happens when government gets involved with big business. Most people think that we need government to protect us from big business, but in truth, the large businesses that are already established in the marketplace like shutting out competition, and that's what regulation does more than protect the consumers. Shuts out competition and it drives profit margins up, and the government generally likes it because they get to appear like they're looking out for the little guy and quite often make some money off of those companies. So you're looking at a system where the consumer generally gets screwed and big business and government work together to stuff their own pockets with the money that the consumers pay out. And the taxpayers, people who already pay taxes, are hurt by what the government regulates with their tax money.
Now, I know we have a little guy here in Keene, New Hampshire, who just started doing this little rickshaw business where he, on a bicycle, where you can sit on the back of it. He has a little space out there for people to sit in, and he'll pedal you around town for a donation. He doesn't charge a fee. I don't know if this is getting him around the whole licensure, but it's got some taxi, the people who have paid for their licensure, the taxi drivers in this town, a little upset. I've heard some grumbling about how he's stealing their business and how he needs to go pay for his license and stuff. The city currently is trying, you were telling me before the show started here, they're trying to force him to get up to $1 million coverage for insurance. Personally, I think a little warning label on his rickshaw would be fine. Consumer beware, caveat emptor, but why we need the city and the governments to be stepping in on this kind of a thing, it is beyond me. If you have a different opinion, though, we would love to hear it. Email the show at fmtv@freemindstv.com or call our talkback line 206-350-0123. All right, speaking about bad governments or government doing stupid things, what's going on in Washington, D.C.? What's this week's Downsizer Dispatch, Nick?
Well, this week's Downsizer Dispatch deals with inflation again. And it's been a big issue here on Free Minds TV because it's a big issue for people across the country. Food is up, fuel is up, and it really stems from the fact that more paper money has been created by the Federal Reserve, lowering interest rates, easing credit, giving out more loans. It dilutes the value of the money in our pockets, and right now Americans don't have a real viable way to get out of that inflationary system. If you put your money into gold or silver as it is today, you can be taxed, there can be sales tax charged on that, capital gains if the value of the gold and silver goes up. There's a lot of taxes that make it impractical to protect yourself with metals. And when you do an exchange rate, if you want to put your money into, say, euros, first off, every other world currency pretty much is inflating. Some of them are getting stronger against the dollar, but generally they're all weakening, some just less than the dollar, because it's a global economy, and our downturn has affected them. So Downsize DC is asking people to support Ron Paul's Honest Money Act, which has been introduced in Congress. What it would do is allow Americans to save save and conduct transactions in gold and silver, which is all that the Constitution allows for. It doesn't call for a central bank or the paper money that's currently issued by the Federal Reserve. So it's really the only constitutional way to do it, but simply to re-legalize using gold and silver as money, not denominated in dollars, but in, say, ounce, half ounce, quarter ounce. And this is something that the market can handle. For people who want to do it, I think it would catch on pretty quickly if we didn't have to pay taxes on gold and silver, because it's a stable means of exchange. It really works a lot better for everybody except maybe the Federal Reserve and the federal government. Everybody else, small businesses, private individuals, you don't have to be hurt by inflation if we pass this act. So go to downsizedc.org, and you can sign up for their mailing list, and you can, from there, you can support Ron Paul's Honest Money Act. You write your representatives a letter and tell them that you want the option, at least, to transact in hard money, something that's not going to lose value as they pump more and more paper dollars out.
Well, that makes sense to me. Sounds like just simple common sense. I don't know why this wasn't laws and put into law years ago. So
well, it was originally,
and then they switched it.
Well, no, it's still in the Constitution.
Oh, right, that
and
whole thing.
Actually, the Gold and Silver Act that created the system, it's still in effect. They never got rid of it, but
they just
issue illegal paper money instead, unconstitutional paper money, and forbid you to use gold and silver as money, which is what the Constitution calls for. If you don't believe me, open up a Constitution, take a look.
I think that you'd be surprised if you actually pick up a Constitution and take a look at all the egregious laws that we're just blatantly ignoring in the Constitution, ignoring everything the Constitution says. So, yeah, read it, see what this country is actually based on, and then scratch your head and wonder about what actually happened. But downsizerdc.org is doing quite the good job of at least trying to push back a little bit. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking about those rising gas prices. Well, they hurt you in the wallet, but what about the gas pumps? What about those older pumps that never in a million years thought that gas prices would go this high and can't handle the higher numbers? We'll be back. Stay tuned.
Dave Ridley here from RidleyReport.com. Just wanted to urge Monadnock area viewers, please take Free Minds TV in moderation. You don't want your head to get loose and go floating around.
And welcome back to Free Minds TV, where we challenge you, the viewer, to think outside the box. With you is Toby.
And Nick.
All right, we've talked about the gas prices, the rising gas prices, how it's affecting the entire economy on Free Minds TV and a whole lot on Free Minds Radio. But one thing we haven't talked about is what it does to those older gas pumps that never imagined the price of gas would be so high. A lot of gas pumps were made many, many years ago when people were paying less than $1 a gallon, even sometimes a few cents a gallon. And those, have you ever seen those old style turners?
Right, where it's not a digital pump, it's analog. It turns over and over.
Right, those are
progressively.
Yeah, there's still about 17,000, a little more than 17,000 of those pumps across the United States in over 8,500 gas stations nationwide. Just to put that in perspective, there's about 170,000 service stations throughout the United States.
So
but
a few percent.
A few percent of them still have the old school machines, which are kind of neat. They're kind of slow too, but they're cool. And they just haven't been upgraded because there's never been the need. Well, those may be going out of style because it seems that those the people who made those gas pumps never dreamed that gas would go over $3.99.99 a gallon. That's as high as a lot of them were made to do. And so these service stations are going to have to go update them. So I just think it's a little bit, I don't know, maybe ironic about the rising price of gas. I know that I have one of these gas stations that I drive by and I sometimes get gas at, and it actually can go over $2.99 a gallon. And what the owners there did is they simply put a little sign on it and said, please double the amount. So it's not a huge deal. It's not going to be the end of the world for these gas stations. It's just something that's kind of sadly humorous of the rising price of gas and, of course, the inflated money, something that we were talking about on the recent Downsizer Dispatch. So it's a sign of the times.
Yeah, I mean, and if you really look at oil in terms of gold and silver, to bring it back to what we were talking about with the dollar, It's pretty stable, and many products like food, if you look at wheat, we're talking about high wheat prices now. Well, if you adjust for wheat in terms of gold for the last 100 years, it's fallen almost that entire time. And you don't see prices going down, which generally they would. If you're measuring it in real money, gold or silver, something that has a relatively fixed value, you're going to see that consumer goods are much cheaper now than they used to be. Industry's a lot more efficient. Food can get to us with a lot less people in between. So overall, you can buy more for every, ounce of silver you make, or you can think about it every hour you work. Your standard of living is much better today because things are available at much less cost. And generally, we have things now that we couldn't even dream about 50 years ago. So if you look at overall how the real economy has done, it's been great. But the dollar distorts that, and it squeezes people because you're paid in terms of dollars. Mm-hmm. That's why prices are going up. It really doesn't have anything to do with industry. You can look and, maybe fuel prices, a few things might swing independent of that. But largely what we're seeing is not real prices going up. It's the dollar value going down. And if you look at trends over history with how much gold things have cost in terms of gold, prices go down over time, not up. So,
except for the dollar.
Except for the dollar prices go down too. If you think about it that way.
Except for the Federal Reserve note,
yeah.
I should say.
Yeah.
Those seem to be ever climbing.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of fuel and energy costs, what's going on, Nick?
As we've said, there's a lot of problems as far as high energy costs. And in the presidential race, they're trying to come up with solutions. And the solutions being proposed right now, Senator Barack Obama is saying that we need a windfall profits tax on oil companies. Not as good an idea as it sounds.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
These people they're charging $4 a gallon. They're making a ton of money.
They are making record profits. But what are they going to do when you tax them more?
Pass that on
to
the consumer?
Yeah.
So we'd be paying more in gas prices.
Most likely.
Have we won anything?
Most likely not. And what a lot of people don't remember is that oil companies are businesses too. They don't just make money automatically. And oil is getting harder to reach. So we need to be investing money now. Not we, but the oil companies need to be investing their profits now in drilling and exploration if we're going to find any more oil. Because otherwise we're going to be out.
Exactly.
So
which will happen eventually.
Right.
So maybe not only investing in more places to find oil, but possibly alternative energy.
Right, and many of the oil companies are
not
exploring
ethanol, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say
we've gone over ethanol over and over again. It's not an alternative.
Right, and Senator John McCain has said he's worried about carbon fuel emissions. Well, that's great, but he's leaned towards ethanol on the campaign trail, and ethanol takes more gas to make than you prevent burning by using it, and there's a lot of other ways it's bad. You're burning food as fuel, and
driving up food prices.
Yeah, and the carbon released by clearing land to plant more corn, which happens when corn gets more expensive, that's another detriment. So ethanol is way worse for the environment, and I even have my doubts about whether CO2 dangers are overstated, but by any measure, CO2 release from ethanol is much, much higher than from petroleum. So if you want to be green, we should be taking the ethanol out of the gas as much as possible. If you look, it's 10% at all the pumps now, which I think they've been doing for a while, but they're trying to say that on the stickers.
I think the only thing is that if we go up is there's going to be a lot more hungry people in the world. Maybe not us, because we can afford to pay a little bit more for food, but people in, I think they like to call them developing countries now, they can't. So if we're going to be raising the price of burning our fuel, burning the corn and other things that make ethanol, some people are going to go hungry. Does that make you feel good and green? Anyways, let's get back to this. The candidates on the campaign trail, Obama says tax the oil companies. They'll just pass it on to us because that's what happens when you tax a company. They just pass it on to the consumer. McCain says possibly switch to ethanol. Or
introduce a tax holiday on gas for this summer.
That's only 18 cents a gallon. We're talking 18 cents a gallon. A few weeks ago, I was paying $3.50. Now I'm paying $3.77 when I filled up today. How much better is 18 cents?
It's not.
It's a few dollars a week.
You could easily save by maybe even saving a trip or two in your week. You could save more money than the gas tax holiday. And gas tax pays for infrastructure. So if you cut that for 6 months, we'll just have to make it up as some other part of the budget.
And the nation's roads are already falling apart. And while I'm not a huge advocate of taxes, if you are going to have a tax, shouldn't it be a usage tax? It's the one tax that actually starts to make sense.
Well, and we're running a budget deficit right now, so when they have that shortfall in gas tax revenues, all they're going to do is borrow more money, which weakens the dollar and makes fuel prices go up more. So it's not a solution at all.
Seems like we're just running in little circles here.
Pretty much.
A dog chasing its tail.
The question is, do we break the circle or do you keep spiraling down? Because the more times you go around that loop, the weaker the dollar gets, and eventually it does get out of control.
I think that what the main message here would be to don't just fall for the gimmicks that the candidates are pushing on you, because chances are that's all they are, is gimmicks to make you feel good. Right. Ethanol, it's green, it makes you feel good. Fuel tax holiday makes you feel good. Charge those big mean companies more, makes you feel good, but it all comes back to bite you in the butt, and it always comes back to the consumer paying more.
And it causes more problems than it solves, almost always.
Yes, usually when the government gets involved in a problem and doesn't let things just take care of themselves and let consumers really vote with their dollar, because that's what matters most, it creates a bigger problem. All right, when we come back, we are going to be getting into a story about no-knock raids. Do you agree with them? I don't know. We're also going to be getting into the possible future of Free Minds TV and more when we come back. Stay tuned.
Log on to freemindstv.com for archives of the show, the Free Minds Radio podcasts, show content and the forum, ways to donate, the members section, contact info, and a whole lot more, all at freemindstv.com.
And welcome back to Free Minds TV, where we challenge you, the viewer, to think outside the box. I am Toby.
I'm Nick.
All right. Real quick, we don't have much time to cover this, but I just wanted to get into it a little bit because I was browsing around the internet and I stumbled across an article about no-knock raids. And we've talked about them on many, many shows back. But what a no-knock raid is basically when the DEA decides they're going to go bust down a door and go raid inside and get the people so that they don't flush their drugs, so that they don't know the police are coming, to go bust drug dealers. Now, I don't even want to get involved in a whole discussion about the war on drugs. That's a discussion for another topic, another day. Tune on to freemindstv.com if you want to see some of the archives, or of course, I'm sure we're going to be talking about it more in the future, and especially on Free Minds Radio. But I want to talk a little bit about these no-knock raids, because this article kind of hit me a little bit. Tracy Engel was asleep in his house when armed police, using a no-knock warrant, burst in. Unsure about what was happening, he reached for a non-functioning pistol. But he began to drop it as soon as he realized that they were police and not burglars. The gesture was too late. Officers shot him 5 times. 5 times, but he still lived. So there's some good news of this story. Well, mercifully, he survived, but despite not finding any drugs in the house, Tracy is being charged with 2 felony counts of aggravated assault, because he picked up the gun, even though he did try to drop it once he realized they're not burglars, drug paraphernalia, and running a drug premises. How can you run a drug premises if there's no drugs found inside? It's very confusing. He's also can no longer work. He has tons of medical bills that he can't pay for because after the police shoot you, they don't foot the bill. And he cannot drive. He's suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, and he's doing pretty badly right now. And he's also facing felony counts for a few different felony counts. For what?
Right. He reached for a gun to defend himself.
When someone was breaking into his house.
Right, without announcing themselves as police. Quite often they don't.
If they had announced themselves as police, he would have put down the gun. He wouldn't have grabbed the gun because they were police. He has nothing to hide.
Or if they just knocked on the door.
Why do they need to burst it open? He didn't have drugs. He probably would have been happy to say hello to them. Now, this is how this happens. A lot of people are like, how could this ever happen? The police are good. They know what's going on. Well, this is how it's happened. They find someone. They bust them for a small amount of drugs. They tell that person, you can get off if you snitch out your dealer. Now, that person knows they can't snitch out their dealer because if their dealer ever found out, the real drug dealer, they'd get shot. So they just give some other address of maybe someone who might be a drug user, kind of like them. Then you get a situation like this. Why? Is this what we need, the war on drugs? Is this what it's for? Do you feel good about the war on drugs? I think it's time to end the war on drugs personally. It doesn't do anything but hurt our friends and family members, and it brings stories like this. Poor guy. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It's just sad, and it has a lot to do with the war on drugs, and it really has a lot to do with these useless no-knock raids. There's been countless incidences where people were shot and killed where they just got the wrong address, for instance.
And cops can get shot and killed by people who aren't even criminals.
Arming themselves because there's someone breaking into your house. Anyways, we are running out of time, but we do want to get to the reason why there has been no Free Minds TV lately. It has to do with our producer, Boris, or Sean, or Tim, or Matt. He has a few different names, but
he goes by.
He really is one guy, and he left town. He decided he wanted to become a paratrooper and a medic. It's a little bit weird, right? He was on this show, helping out a long time, and then he decided he wanted to pretty much go do the opposite of what he's doing now. But hey, at least he's becoming a medic, going out to save people, at least in theory, instead of shoot them. So at least there's something good in that. But it does put a little damper on Free Minds TV because when he was here, he had the keys to the building and we could do the show whenever we wanted, which is in the evening, which works for us because we have day jobs. Because you guys don't give us quite enough money to do this as our full-time jobs. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, it is fun to do, but we do need to do it in the evenings, and he hasn't been here, so we can't do the show. And that's going to mean that we're going to put Free Minds TV on a little break to revamp the show and figure things out. This is really going to be coming back on Part 4 of Free Minds TV, because at first, when we first started, we didn't really know what we were doing. We had all sorts of, like 3 chairs just sitting there talking. Then it turned into myself and Dale Manning doing the show, a 2-person show. Then Dale left and you came on the show. And now we're going into the next chapter.
Right. So it's a new chapter. We're coming back, but we don't know exactly when. As far as the PorcFest coverage we were hoping to do
up in the
PorcFest here, yeah, we really don't know. We might be back up and running before then. We might not. So we'll be back as soon as possible, and we are coming back. Just not sure exactly when. Yeah.
Hopefully when we come back, we are going to be coming back with some new segments, some new ideas. We have a lot throwing around. We've got a new producer who's doing it right now, at least, Nick, in the booth. Hopefully we can get him to stick around. If you guys want to help him stick around, I know it would really help him. Send us some donations. Put care of Nick on it, and that will help us come back quicker because Nick has a job too, and if he's going to be doing the show, he has to not work on the night when we do the show. So if you really want Free Minds TV to come back, think about giving a donation. FreeMindsTV.com is the place to do it.
And you can listen to Free Minds Radio at FreeMindsTV.com. We do a weekly podcast. Might be doing it more often now that we don't have the show. So if you miss the content, go to FreeMindsTV.com. We probably won't have much new video, but we will have audio-only podcasts that you can listen to right there on the site.
Join us this Sunday live from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Times for Free Minds Radio. It has been Toby here with you.
And Nick.
We will see you on Free Minds TV as soon as possible. Join us for Free Minds Radio. Have a great night. We lost audio?
Oh, wait. Audio was really crummy for the last 20 seconds.
Check the recording.
Yeah.